existence of fixed heat. 1. By the power of the superknowledges, fire does not burn the body of some ascetics. 2. As a result of actions, fire does not burn the 5 internal organs of the human body. 3. By the power of the celestial dragon, water does not destroy the fire of space. Finally, if the heat essence were different from fire, fire would not be hot. And if heat were the same as fire, why claim that this heat is the essence of fire? It is the same with the other prakhitis. Essence. As the shared prakhitis and the specific prakhitis do not exist, the Prajnaparamitasutra proclaims the emptiness of the prakhitis here. 6. Long duration is not eternity. Moreover, the emptiness of the prakhitis is empty from the very beginning. But worldly people tell us that which is false and does not last for a long time is empty. By contrast, Sumeru and diamond which last for a long time, the things known by the saints which are not false, we hold them to be real and not empty. In order to cut through this error, the Buddha said, even solid things forming series and lasting for a long time are empty of essence and although the wisdom of the saints saves beings and destroys the passions, the prakhitis of which they speak are non-existent and consequently empty. People still say, the 5 aggregates, the 12 bases of consciousness and the 18 elements are all empty. Only suchness, the fundamental element, the highest culminating point of the truth, are true essences. In order to cut through this error, the Buddha simply said, the 5 aggregates, but also suchness, the fundamental element and the culminating point of the truth are empty. This is called the emptiness of the essences. Finally, the prakhitis of conditioned dharmas have 3 characteristics: production, duration and disappearance. The prakhitis of unconditioned dharmas also have 3 characteristics: non-arising, non-duration and non-disappearance. If the conditioned prakhitis are empty, what can be said then about the conditioned dharmas? And if the non-conditioned prakhitis are empty, what can be said then of the non-conditioned dharmas? For these many reasons, the prakhitis are non-existent, and this is what is called emptiness of the prakhitis. Essence. Svalaksana Sunyata. 11th section. Emptiness 13. Emptiness of specific characteristics. 1. The 2 types of characteristics. Emptiness of specific characteristics. All dharmas have 2 kinds of characteristics: 1. Shared characteristics and 2. Specific characteristics. These 2 kinds of characteristics being empty, the Prajnaparamitasutra speaks here of the emptiness of characterististics. Question. What are the shared characteristics and what are the specific characteristics? Answer. The shared characteristics are impermanence, etc. For example, the specific characteristics, in the sense that dharmas, although they are impermanent, each possess their own specific characteristic. Thus, for the earth, it is solidity; for fire, it is heat. 2. Connections between characteristics and essences. Question. Above you have already spoken about essences and here you are speaking about characteristics. Are essences and characteristics the same or different? Answer. 1. Some say that their reality is not different but that the names show differences. To talk about essence is to talk about characteristic, and to talk about characteristic is to talk about essence. For example, we say that the essence of fire is the characteristic of heat and that the characteristic of heat is the essence of fire. 2. Others say that between essence and characteristic there are slight differences. The essence concerns the very nature of the thing, whereas the characteristic is its indication or sign. Thus, in the follower of the Buddha, the taking of the precepts constitutes the essence, whereas the shaving of the head and the wearing of the yellow robe constitute the characteristics. In a Brahmacharan, the religious vows constitute the essence, whereas the tuft of hair at the top of the head and the carrying of the staff constitute the characteristics. Fire has heat as its essence and smoke as its characteristic. Proximity is essence while distance is characteristic. The characteristics are not fixed and leave the body. The essence expresses the reality of the thing. Thus, when one sees a yellow substance, one thinks it is gold, but in itself it is copper. In melting it or rubbing it with a stone, one recognizes that it does not have gold as its essence. The person who shows respect and veneration seems to be an honest man, but that is only a superficial characteristic. Abuse, critics, anger and rage are his true essence. These are the differences between essence and characteristic, interior and exterior, distance and proximity, anteriority and posteriority. All these characteristics being empty, the Prajnaparamitasutra speaks here about emptiness of characteristics. 3. Shared characteristics. 1. Impermanence. As it is said, all conditioned dharmas have an impermanent characteristic. Why? 1. Because they arise, perish and do not last. 2. Because, not existing previously, they exist now and, after having existed, they will return to non-existence. 3. Because they depend on causes and conditions. 4. Because they are deceptive and dishonest. 5. Because they arise from impermanent causes and conditions. 6. Because they come from associated causes and conditions. For these reasons, all conditioned dharmas have an impermanent characteristic. 2. Suffering. Arousing bodily and mental torments, they are a mass of suffering. 1. Because the four postures are never without suffering. 2. Because the holy truth of suffering proclaims them to be suffering. 3. Because the saints reject them and do not accept them. 4. Because they never stop tormenting. 5. Because they are impermanent. For these reasons, they have the characteristic of suffering. 3. Empty. 1. Not belonging to the me, they are empty. 2. Coming from a complex of causes and conditions, they are empty. 3. Being impermanent, suffering, empty and impersonal, they are empty. 4. Because there is neither beginning nor end in them, they are empty. 5. Because they deceive the mind, they are empty. 6. Because the saints are not attached to any of them, they are empty. 7. By virtue of the two gates of deliverance, namely, signlessness and wishlessness, they are empty. 8. Because the true nature of dharmas is immense and incalculable, they are empty. 9. Because this true nature cuts all the paths of speech, they are empty. 10. Because this true nature destroys all functioning of the mind, they are empty. 11. Because the Buddhas, Pratyeka Buddhas and Arhats who penetrate into this true nature do not come out of it, they are empty. For these reasons, they have the empty characteristic. 4. Without self. Being impermanent, suffering and empty, these dharmas are without self. 1. Not being autonomous, they are without self. 2. Without master, they are without self. 3. None of them is born without causes and conditions, but they all come from causes and conditions. Therefore they are without self. 4. By virtue of the two gates of deliverance, namely, signlessness and wishlessness, they are without self. 5. Being only simple designations, they are without self. 6. Belief in the person being an error, they are without self. 7. Because body is found by destroying the idea of self, they are without self. For these many reasons, conditioned dharmas are without self. All this has dealt with the shared characteristics. 4. Specific characteristics. Earth has as characteristic solidity. Fire has as characteristic heat, water has as characteristic moistness, wind has as characteristic motion. The eye has as characteristic being the support of the visual consciousness.